Over the years to work in the community when Tom Davis was secretary of the agency, and the partnership between government and community work at that time was just extraordinary. We're very grateful, and then had the amazing opportunity to be a public servant during part of Tom Hogan's tenure as secretary. So I have to say, I'm from Addison County, Vermont. Our family are sheep farmers. My brother was visiting from Dallas, Texas during the winter. On a cold, snowy day, we all said, oh, let's go over and watch them blow up the bridge. This was like the most exciting thing that was going to happen in Addison County. And I have the sense, as I think back now, that good policy would have been to build a new bridge first before we blew up that old bridge, because it really basically destroyed the economy of so many of the businesses around that area. And even now you're hearing people today talking about how's it going to get rebuilt. Will it even give work to Vermonters, or is it all going to be out of state? So I'm very grateful to Jack's report, because I think it's a warning signal, just like you're seeing all over Vermont right now, bridge out or soft shoulder, or culvert's been washed away, to say, let's get back on the right road here. And that right road, I think, is the kind of government that most of us believe we have in Vermont, that we probably still have in Vermont, and we've just gotten a little bit off track. But I think that most of us believe that the role of government in our democracies is to help create the infrastructure and the services that help us to take care of each other and to take care of the environment in ways that are more efficient than any one of us could do on our own if we were trying to do those things alone. So I'd just like to tell maybe a short story about a friend of mine. She gave me permission to do this, that illustrates what I think are some very fundamental, very frightening, and probably easily reversible changes that have happened over the last few years in terms of the relationship between government and us as citizens. And those are, I think that we have seen a trend that has taken us from hope and excitement close to the verge of despair and feeling overwhelmed. That we have seen a trend from really full partnerships that were exhibited in many, many ways in our state years ago to a sense of closed doors, that we are not welcome to tell our stories, we are not welcome to be involved in decision making. And a real switch from what I think was a trend toward true accountability, which meant let's look at what we do together and see whether it's improving the well-being of our children, of our elders, of people with disabilities, whether it's improving the well-being of our environment, or this trend from true accountability to what I consider to be almost pencil pushing, which is looking at the only accountability is have we met a certain bottom line here. So the story of my friend, we've known each other for close to 25 years. I met her when she was a pregnant, single, very frightened, a woman who was courageously overcoming a number of disabilities that she had, and she was also very isolated at that time because she had stood up to some of the people in her family to talk about abuse that was going on in the family. It wasn't done at the time, and people said, don't talk about this. And yet, with the support of volunteers, with her own courage and strength, and with the support of social services, education, and healthcare that were put in place, she did, over those years, a fantastic job of raising her daughter by herself. Her daughter graduated from college 3 years ago. She's been working as self-sufficient for 2 years. My friend was able to hold down a job for all of those years. And it was in many ways thanks to some of the services that Vermont stepped forward to provide during really difficult times, that when we looked at the years when people were saying, oh, the welfare system is not working, Vermonters sat down at the table together and said, let's create a family support system that is based on partnership, that the parents and the kids, the community and the taxpayers will work together, that has true accountability, which is, are the families getting out of poverty? Are the children doing better? Are parents having an opportunity to go to school so that they can actually support their children long term? A process that was controversial, but that ended up, I think, very hopeful. That ironically, we had a group of visitors from South Korea here this year. They passed legislation very much based on what Vermont had, and I feel as if in some ways we're not honoring that legacy. She was also very fortunate that in times when we were worried about affordable housing and said, well, you can either protect the environment or you can do affordable housing, but you can't do both. Vermonters came together and created the Vermont Housing Conservation Board, which was able to protect agriculture, environmental issues, and affordable housing. It allowed people to own their own homes and to become owners of the trailer parks that they lived in. She was a great recipient of that and worked hard to make it happen. And she called me 2 weeks ago and was in despair. The first time that I have ever heard her in despair saying, I'm going to have to sell my home and move into a shelter. And I thought, oh, you're probably exaggerating this. This is probably a problem that's not real. But she said, as we look at what's going forward, I earn a little bit too much. I lost my job a year ago. My extension on unemployment is going to run out, but it hasn't yet. So what I get right now from disability and unemployment is it's $17 too much for her to benefit from any of the services that might be available, like regular fuel assistance or food stamps. She doesn't have enough money to repair her trailer, but she can't borrow money to replace it. She said, I just don't know what I'm going to do because it seems as if things are getting worse. It seems in the olden days, when something went wrong, people would get together and say, well, let's work on this. I'm sure there would be a way, and there was always a way. Not just for an individual case, but it seemed as if we use solving individual cases to help make things better for everyone. And it just feels a little bit that we've gotten into a mentality of the sky is falling. And I've been there myself sometimes, but I'm worried that perhaps the legislature is feeling under pressure to make decisions very quickly that we could, with a little bit more time and thought, with a little bit more investment, say, maybe the sky's not falling. Maybe we can work together to make the investments we need now, whether that would be raising taxes or looking at other ways of using the funding that we have available. But that clearly during this most difficult time, those who most need our help, but what we provide for them also helps all of us. I'll just close with saying that the strongest memories of what we provide for those who most need help providing for everybody was the decision that it was going to cost money to implement the electronic benefits transfer because you would need little machines at every mom and pop store around the state, but it would mean that people didn't need to use food stamps anymore. Putting those machines in, I think in many cases, kept some of those small businesses alive because suddenly everybody else in the community could easily shop at those local places. So I think that there is a lot that we can do together. I said I think these things are reversible, and I would particularly remind people that there was a time that we really focused on true accountability. We published every year how well we were doing in our communities, in our state. We would get together once a year to plan for outcomes. And at the end of the day, people were saying, not is the budget balanced, but how is this decision going to affect our children? How is this decision going to affect our elders? How will this decision affect those who most need support? My mentor in this work was Art Gibb, who was also an Absent County farmer, who basically said there are only two things that matter. It matters how we take care of each other, and it matters how we take care of the environment. That's what you need to ask yourself at the end of the day. So